Welcome to our series of 2 webinars called Social You, focusing on the use of social media. These 2 webinars will help you to get started or improve your presence on social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter. In collaboration with Safe Kids, have we developed 2 webinars for Facebook and Twitter. The first one that you have already listened to tells you about how you can get your message out, some best practices and do's and don'ts. The second one that we are going to listen to today will focus on Twitter, on trending, best practices and ways to drive engagement. In this and the next webinar, Safe Kids has promised to help us out. Safe Kids has a long track record of using social media, and their team's efforts are led by Julie Keneally, Senior Public Relations Associate. Julie will present her tips and advice to us. Thank you very much for that. But before I hand it over to Julie, I just want to remind you to provide feedback to these webinars. Any question or feedback you may have on this form that you can find on our website. Your feedback helps us designing new webinars and ensure that what we offer is relevant to you. I would like to hand it over to Julie. Thank you very much, Julie, and please take it away.
Thank you. Again, my name is Julie Keneally, and I'm with Safe Kids Worldwide. I want to thank you guys for having us today. We think that social media is an important way to get our messaging out to the general public, and we've had a lot of success with using Facebook and Twitter. Today we're going to be talking through Twitter and some of the important nuances to using this somewhat tricky platform. To begin, I want to talk through some Twitter statistics so that we can understand just how widespread Twitter is, so that we can see the potential for really reaching a wide audience. The number of people that use Twitter as of just a few days ago is 310 million people. And again, if you can think about just reaching 10% or 1% or 0.1% of that population, you can make a huge difference in the world, and your message can be seen by tons of people. Of the registered Twitter users, there's 1.3 billion people. And this is a little different than the previous one because there are a lot of people on Twitter who just use it as a news source. So there's people who have never tweeted, don't ever plan to tweet, but follow news and other information so that they can get information and news source. It's one of the biggest news sources that's not a traditional news platform. For daily active Twitter users, there are 100 million people who use Twitter every single day. So again, if you can think about reaching 10% or 1% of this population, you can reach a wide audience of people. And just thinking about how frequently we should be tweeting, 100 million people use it every single day. So by tweeting every single day, we can reach more people. The percentage of active Twitter users that log onto it more than once a day is 34%. This is important because it just shows the amount of time that you need to spend on Twitter with continuously pushing out information. Whereas Facebook, you appear in people's news feeds and they can see posts from today or yesterday or a popular post from even last week. Twitter is more instantaneous. And a tweet that you send out right now won't be seen by people tomorrow unless they go searching for it. So the difference between Facebook and Twitter is the amount of times that you should be tweeting to be relevant. Talking through a little bit of Twitter jargon, I've heard from a lot of people that it's confusing, the different words used with Twitter. So I just want to go through some of these quickly. The handle is your username. So for us, our username is @SafeKids. When you're talking to people, if you want to connect with them, you would ask them what their username is. And that's something that you choose when you sign up for Twitter. A hashtag is a way for people to search for tweets that have a common topic or to begin a conversation. So in the image that you see there, it says, are you participating in hashtag take your kid to work day tomorrow? So if we wanted to see what everybody is saying about Take Your Kid to Work Day, you could click on that hashtag and Twitter would compile all of the tweets about that topic. This is really popular around events like the Grammys or New Year's Eve or Christmas, as well as just people's names, celebrities, or other subjects. And I'll show you this on Twitter in a second. Trending is when your hashtag becomes so popular and so widespread, used by so many people, that it's used more frequently than all other hashtags at that time. And you can show your trends based on your city, state, or country. So for United States trends in this picture, at the time that I took that picture, those were the most popular things that people were talking about on Twitter. So you can see there's some political things, there's environmental things, there's some celebrity names, but these were the things that the most people were talking about. A retweet is like a share on Facebook. So it's when you see something that someone else has tweeted and you want your followers to also see that because you think it's important. The retweet button is the square with two arrows that you can see highlighted at the bottom of the page. If you click that button, it retweets the tweet, which means that it will appear on your page and it will have the person credited. As you can see in this post, we retweeted our advocacy account. So Safe Kids Advocacy tweeted about Representative Grace Meng, and we retweeted that so that all of our audience could also see this. Getting retweets is one of our goals for engagement. A mention is different than a retweet. It's almost as if someone is tagging you, like on Facebook. So if someone writes your Twitter handle in their tweet, that's what's called a mentioned, and it tags you so that you'll see it and that your followers will see it. So in this tweet here, we've mentioned National Harbor and Chevrolet, the car company. So both of those people will see that tweet, and it kind of gives credit to them, and it's almost like valuing them and tagging them. So it's important to use these when you're actually talking about people or organizations because it will drive engagement. A follower is someone who follows your account, and getting more followers is important. That's something that we want to do on Twitter because more people will see us. So these three people you can see at GL Healthcare follows Safe Kids, at Baby Colics follows us, and at New Arizona GOP follows us. So those are three of our newest followers who now get our tweets in their news feed. Before I go into actually writing a tweet, I just want to show you on Twitter where you can find these things. So if we look at our Twitter page here, you can see this is what the home page looks like. If we were to click on this, this is our information. So here is our handle at Safe Kids, the number of tweets that we've sent. These are the people that we follow, and these are our followers. So we have 56.6 thousand people who follow us. Talking about our trends, this is Washington, D.C.'s trends right now. So right now, the most popular things to talk about on Twitter in Washington are Teacher Appreciation Day, the Tony Awards, Johnson & Johnson, and you can see all of these things. So if you are one of those people that we mentioned that only uses Twitter as a news source, you would look at this and say, oh, the Tony Awards are happening. I'm going to click on that, see what the Tony Awards are, and then you can see what everyone is talking about. So a hashtag is really just a way to compile everything on a certain topic. If you were to go to Safe Kids page, these are our tweets that we've tweeted, and we use hashtags to tie together our campaigns. So if we wanted to look up and see, let's see what hashtag road safety says, we would type in that hashtag, click on it, and you could see here's 2 accounts. One is ours that use this hashtag, but then you can also see all the people who are tweeting about road safety. So these are other people in our line of work who are tweeting about this. And this is a great way for you to see what's going on in the space of road safety and to see the people who are tweeting about it so that you could follow them or retweet their information. A few other things to mention is the notifications tab. This is a way for you to engage with your followers. This will tell you every time someone has mentioned or is tagging you in a post or retweeting your page. So for this one, they've tagged us, so it comes up in our notifications. We could retweet this to our page because we see this and think that it's important for people on our page to also know about children riding in a booster seat. So I'm going to click retweet, and then you'll see that it will appear as the newest thing on our page. And it says, we retweeted this. It credits the person who originally tweeted it, copies what they wrote, and it even adds the picture. And you can see that their retweet count is at 1. So like Facebook, there's a like button here, and then you could retweet there. So trying to get a lot of likes and retweets is how you measure engagement on Twitter. And you can see which tweets are popular by the tweets that have the highest like and retweet count. And the reason that I said Twitter was tricky earlier is because of this character limit. Twitter is meant to be bite-sized information that you could just scroll through your news feed and easily get an understanding of the messages that people are sending out. 140 characters includes spaces, and it's very short. It's hard to write on Twitter. You really have to play around with it as you're writing. One way to do that is to use bit.ly links, which shorten links. So if we were to click on this link, bit.ly is a website that creates those short links that you see. So let's say we wanted to tweet out this page. It's kind of a long website, so you could copy and paste that into bit.ly, and you can see here that it created a shorter link. So when you go to tweet that link, let's say we wanted to tweet about that page, you could tweet a shorter link and your character limit wouldn't change that much. While you're writing on Twitter, it counts down your characters for you. So say you wanted to tweet about this road safety page, and I'll just make one up as we go. Check out this great road safety information. And you can see I have 71 characters left. The link itself will take up 23 characters, and a photo will also take up an extra 23 characters. So if we wanted to add a photo, let's say we wanted to add this photo, you can see it took down my character limit. So sometimes you'll go over the word limit. And you can see that Twitter will turn it red the amount of characters that you need to delete, and it will tell you down here that you're 27 characters over the limit. So this is where you play around with it and you delete some words to try to make this work. Sometimes so you could delete, and you just play around and try to make your message fit. So Twitter is a lot of trial and error with pasting and reworking things once you have your message. A couple ways to shorten things are to use abbreviations or symbols. So using the ampersand instead of writing out and will save you a few characters, as well as with or shortening words like children to kids. And as experts in road safety, sometimes we like to use more professional terms, but writing for Twitter, you want to write to the common person, so it's okay to use colloquial words like kids instead of children. And you'll see this as we go along. This just shows you how many characters, photos, and links add that we just showed you. To go through some Twitter best practices, I'm going to use this website here. The citation is in the corner, but this breaks down some of the best practices in a very nice, graphical, easy to understand way. So, keeping posts short. You saw when I retweeted that message that it added our name to it, or added the name of the person who tweeted it. So if you're tweeting, it's best to keep your posts around 100 characters. So even though they gave us 140 characters, we want to leave room in case somebody retweets us. So to show you this, when we retweeted at NCPSB, it added their handle. So for retweets, this added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more characters. So if this tweet had been at 140 characters already, it would have gone over when we tried to tweet this, and it would have cut off the end of the tweet. So try to keep your tweets to about 100 characters. The best time to tweet varies really depending on your audience, but it's been shown that mobile users are 119% more likely to use Twitter during the day, but in the afternoon. Especially with people who work, the mornings are very focused on actually getting work done, but between 12 and 4 is when people will start to take quick breaks to do other things. And I know we would all say that we never do this, but that's what the Twitter statistics show. So if you tweet in the afternoon between 12 and 4, you're more likely to get people to see your tweet. So keep that in mind. Days of the week for engagement also varies. 17% more engagement has been found on the weekends, but for just seeing posts, there's better engagement on Monday through Friday. So this is something that you'll just kind of do with trial and error. For Safe Kids, we've found that the end of the week is better. Again, people are starting to take more breaks as Thursday and Friday come along. And then on the weekends, people will often be on Twitter at their home. So you'll just have to kind of play around with it. I would suggest starting with the end of the week and weekends rather than doing all of your tweets on Mondays. There's an important thing to note about Twitter handles, and it's a distinction that will turn you into kind of more of a social media expert. If you put someone's handle at the beginning of a tweet, it actually acts as a direct message to that person, and it won't show up on your news feed. So if we go back to Twitter, if we were to tweet and we wanted to say, let's say we wanted to tweet something about the UN. If we use at United Nations, or that's UN Jordan. Well, let's do that. If we wanted to say, for example, that they held a great event this morning. Thanks for inviting us. This tweet is only going to be seen by this organization because we started the tweet with their handle. If we want everybody to see this tweet and know that this group had a great event, we need to not start with their handle and put that somewhere else. So you would just play around and rewrite the tweet and say something like, great event this morning held by, and then you would put their handle there. This tweet will go out to your entire audience and everybody will see it. So the difference is the placement of the handle and the @ symbol. If you did want to just send them a message, say you wanted to just say thanks to them on their own, then you would start it with the @ symbol here. So this would be a private message just to this person. And you could use this if you want to thank them or ask them a question. That's how you would do it. It will only go to them and no one else will see it. A lot of people make the mistake of starting their tweets with the handle because they want to get that important information in and don't realize that that then only goes to the person. So if you look on our page, you can see that none of these start with a handle at the front of it. All the times that we've used a handle, it's in the middle or the end of a tweet. Pictures are important on Twitter, just like on Facebook and other social media platforms, because it's a very visual way to see information. And because of Twitter's character limit, adding words on a photo gives you more time to say what you want to say without taking too many characters out. The image will pop up and appear with the tweet, so especially when you're posting from events, include images as much as possible. And tweets with images get more engagement than tweets that don't have images. Another best practice is to put links in your message in the middle of the message rather than at the end. So you can see here to put the most important message first and then add the link, and then you could add opinions or afterthoughts or other hashtags. So if we were to go back to Twitter, the best way to do it, and we don't always do this, is to put a link. Let's see if I can find an example with a link. Like this, for example, would actually be against what they were saying because we have our hashtag, which ties everything together before the link. So if someone were reading this, they would read the tip, and then they would see the hashtag, and they may not ever get to the link because they've already got their information. If you do the link further up, it doesn't look like we have any that show this. If you do the link further up, that's the best practice to get people to click on the link. So put your most important fact or tip first, add the link that will drive them to more information, and then at the end put hashtags or other afterthoughts to tie the post together, which is something that we'll need to work on. Ways to drive engagement, and these are similar to the Facebook one if you've watched that webinar, but they work for Twitter as well. Asking questions will drive engagement. It will make people respond to your tweet or retweet the tweet. So asking questions about, have you ever seen this? Have you done this? Have you ever ridden without a seatbelt on? Have you seen this new research report? Asking questions will make people stop and ponder and think about whether they've done it or not. So if you start your tweet with a question, you'll get more engagement, and by that we mean more likes, retweets, and comments than if you don't. Another thing that we've seen success with is asking people's advice. We know that we're the experts, and oftentimes we just want to give out information, and sometimes we forget that people might have good information that we don't know about yet. So asking advice from people, like, how do you deal with a child who can unbuckle their seatbelt? Or how do you tell your teen that she's too short to sit in the front seat? Or how do you know when your child is old enough to cross the road alone? sometimes it's good to ask people their advice because that will get them thinking about the topic and they might respond. And if they respond, it'll stir engagement and it will start a conversation. So while it's great for us to give advice to others, it's good for you to mix in some tweets where you ask people for their advice, and we may learn something from them. Using facts will increase shares and retweets. So if you have a fact, especially on your photo, more people will retweet this to share this with their network. So really using facts is going to be a great way to get engagement. And if you need help finding those facts, you can find, I'm sure you have a lot for your country, but Safe Kids has a new road safety fact sheet that you can use from our page. And again, asking people to share, like, and retweet comments will actually get them to do it more. This may seem a little self-serving, but the statistics show that asking someone to retweet your tweet, and when I say that I mean retweet to your followers if you want to share this information, or having a tip that says, tip, children should walk on the right side of the road facing sidewalk, retweet to share with your followers. Doing something like that is more likely to get people to retweet. And then responding to people on Twitter, both people who respond to your comments and other people on your news feed, is a great way to drive engagement. Building a following, again, this is similar to Facebook. Advertising is the best way to, and fastest way to build a following on Twitter. You can use Twitter ads to drive people to your page or to certain tweets. Following other people is also important. I'll show you this on Twitter where it suggests people for you to follow. Tagging people in posts by using their handle, retweeting posts from other organizations, and again, responding to comments will help drive people to your page. So let me just show you this more on Twitter itself. So if we come to our home page here, this is what it looks like when you log into Twitter. So what we want to do here is just see the way that Twitter helps us find ways to build our following. We have 56.6 thousand followers. You can also go over here to this section, and Twitter will pull people who are similar to the people who already follow you. So if we go to who to follow and we want to see them all, following people is a great way to get people to follow you back. So we've got a junior high school here. We can follow them. We have a library. We have Troy Williams, we're a magazine. West Palm Beach is a city. This is a historian, women's rights. By following these people, and these people are somehow similar to people who already follow you, these people might follow you back. So that's the first and easiest way to get followers, aside from advertising. Another way is to tag people in posts, and we've shown you how to tag people by using their handle. But for this tweet here, you can see we've tagged Chevrolet. This is one of our partners on road safety. By tagging Chevrolet, their followers, and they have 844,000, so a lot more than we have. These people might see our tweet and then think to follow Safe Kids. So again, and you can see we saw that Teacher Appreciation Day was trending. You can see that Chevy is joining that conversation, and they're talking about Teacher Appreciation Day. So again, just kind of tying together how these trends tie in. So if you want to get your tweet to have a lot more visibility, you could see if any of these relate to your work. And you could write a tweet thanking teachers for keeping their kids safe as they walk to school, and your tweet will appear on this list, just like that Chevy tweet came up. Another way that we talked about to build the engagement is sharing the post from other organizations, like we just retweeted that post. People who follow these people will see that we've retweeted their tweet. So if we go back to this page, people who follow them will see that we've retweeted their post, and you can see how many people have retweeted it, and it will come up on their page as well. And then under your notifications, which I showed you before, it will tell you times that people have tagged you, and this is how you can respond to them or thank them for sharing your information, like this insurance company shared our bike video. So when I say responding to comments, you can reply and thank them. So you can see they automatically made this a direct message, and you can share. So now Amica Insurance will get our response about thanking them for this video. Some best practices, and if you watched our Facebook page, you'll see that this is a little repetitive, but it's really important to know how to talk to your people. And we've learned about this through focus groups. We've had focus groups with parents and teens as well as grandparents to find out how people are best receptive to our message. So we don't want to drive people away by saying the wrong thing, but we wanted to learn from them about the best way for them to listen to us and understand our message. So first, one of the big takeaways that was surprising to us was about the words always and never. So as much as we want people to be perfect all the time, most of the time there are instances where people are going to have to bend or break the rules. So by using the words always and never, you turn people off because it's just not realistic to think that people will always or never do these things. So we have a saying here that always and never are two words you should always remember never to say. So in example, never let your child play sports while hurt. It could lead to more injuries. If I was a parent looking for sports information, this message would not make me want to click on the link that's with this post because it's unrealistic to think that your child will never play sports while hurt. Sure, they shouldn't be playing sports when they're really injured, but if their muscle is sore or they have a minor injury, chances are they'll still want to play. So by saying never, you're making it an absolute statement and people will be turned off from it. A good way to write that would be asking a question, do you have a child that plays sports? Which is going to engage the person into reading it more if they do have a child. Here are a few tips to help you learn about concussions and other injuries, and then that would link to a page with sports safety information. And you can see just how much nicer the good way to write that is than the bad way, and people will be more receptive to the good information. They'll be more likely to click the link to learn about concussions. Another best practice is by making people think that they're doing a bad job or that they're doing something wrong. We never want people to feel like they're doing something really wrong because they'll stop following you and they'll stop reading your information. People aren't on Twitter to get lectured all the time, so rather than by telling them all the things they're doing incorrectly, we want to point out the ways that they can do things better. So a bad way to write a tip would be, this number of children die every year in house fires. Don't risk your child's life, install smoke alarms today. And that's just kind of a negative statement where it's pointing blame at the parents, and we really don't want to do that. Instead, we want to offer them advice on how to fix this or how to make it so their child is safer. So a good way to do that would be, we know you're really busy, and that first phrase kind of sets us up to be relatable to the parents. But installing smoke alarms will give you peace of mind all year. Learn more. And you can just see from looking at these two that the second one, the good way to write it, is a way that will drive more traffic to your page. People are going to be more likely to click on that than the bad behavior where people are just going to be annoyed that you're lecturing them. Also, we know that most people want to keep their kids safe and be safe themselves. People aren't going out on the roads trying to be reckless or trying to put themselves in dangerous situations. Most people want to get where they're going safely. So it's just helpful to remind them of the things that they might not realize are bad behaviors. So in this example, we say the bad would be always keep your medicine up and away and out of sight. Everyday normal parents will look at this message and say, yep, I do this, and they'll scroll past it. They won't even give it a second thought because most people are trying to do things right most of the time. So in a road safety example, a bad or a not great tweet would be, don't text and drive. Yeah, we all know that we shouldn't text and drive, so you're just going to scroll past that and not learn more about it. A good way to do this is to point out the times that people are doing the bad behavior and they're bending the rules and they may not think about it, but it's still risky. So in the medicine example, we found this from research on safekids.org that some of the times that people were bending the rules was when they have medicine in purses, on nightstands, or on a changing table. So yes, most parents think that they're putting their medicine away, but there are times when they're not doing it. And that's the information that you really want to get out there because that's going to be the aha moment that changes people's perceptions. So in the texting and driving example, it wouldn't be helpful to just tell people not to text and drive because they already know that, but why are they still doing it? Is it because they're texting at a red light? Is it because they're responding to a text from their parents or their bosses? Is it because they just want to send a quick text saying that they're on their way? Those types of examples are the times where you're really exploring this situation and understanding when are the times that people are bending the rules. So a good way to say that would be like, don't text and drive even if you're stopped at a red light. Something like that is like, ooh, yeah, I actually do text at red lights. I didn't realize how unsafe that still is. Pointing out those examples where people bend the rules are the way to really change behavior. And as I've mentioned throughout all of these best practices, it's important to stay positive. If we're always negative, and it's hard not to be when we're dealing with such a topic like we do, where there's lots of deaths caused by it, but people go on social media as a break from the real world. They don't want to go on social media and be lectured or see pictures and statistics about death. They want to go on social media to escape the real world. So we don't always want to be negative. We want to turn it around into a way that they can learn something from it. So while it's really easy for us to use scary statistics in hopes of scaring people into changing their behavior, we found that that actually doesn't work as well, and that turns people off. And not only are they not going to read your information, but they're also likely to stop following you if you're always negative. So you might lose followers from this as well. So in this example, you can see the bad one talks about the death and the number of deaths from home fires. So this would be an example of people seeing this and it's negative and they don't want to hear about this on their page. A good way to do it is by offering the solution that would help change that statistic. So we did that there, and you can see that we also added the question at the end, which stirs engagement. One tip at a time is easier for people to digest, especially on Twitter. Because of the character limit, it's nice to be limited to one tip at a time, but it's also better for retweeting because it's just something easy that people are like, oh, this is interesting, retweet, and they share it to their followers. So one tip or one fact at a time is the best way to do tweets. So let's say you have 10 tips that you want to get out. Rather than putting them all into one tweet or doing what the bad example says and just putting out a blank message that would drive them to all of the tweets, you would do 10 individual tweets about each tip. So you could schedule them out, but posting one tip at a time is going to be better than trying to drive people to a whole list of tips or trying to fit too much into one tweet. So in this example, the bad one drives people to a page of lots of tips, but there's really no reason people would click on that. It's not interesting, and they don't know that they need that information. The good example is we took one tip and we put it in a tweet and sent that out. So people will see that and they'll go, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. This is something that my followers should know too. And then they'll retweet it. Photo editing, again, is something that we talked about in the Facebook series, if you already watched that. But for Twitter, it's important because of the size. You can see here it's 600 by 300 pixels, and we want to have photos in our posts. So the way that you can do this is by going to a photo editing software or a photo resizing software, and I use Photoshop. So this is set to 600 by 300 pixels. This is a template that I've saved for myself, but you could also just resize it as it is. And the way that I do this on Photoshop is that I would open the picture. So let's say we wanted to use a stock image. Here's a picture of two children walking to school. So you could paste that over your template, and you can see right now my photo's too big. So you can just shrink it down like you would do on any kind of editing with Word or Paint or Excel, and you just keep shrinking it down until the part that you want to have is in the frame. So this photo was quite large, but we can shrink it down. Oh, still a little too big to show the kids walking to school. And I want to get that crosswalk in there to show good behavior. And if you wanted to add text, like I mentioned, adding text to a photo on Twitter is a way to increase your character limit. So if we wanted to add text, if we do the same, you could do that here, or you could even write a statistic here or a tip and just increase your character limit, which means you have more space to write in the text above. So photos for Twitter are very important because they do add extra words for you. I would recommend using them as much as possible. And just a few photo best practices. Happy, smiling kids are more engaging. This goes back to people being on social media for a break from the real world, not always negative. There's so much negativity in the news and other things like that that they don't want to follow that on social media. So using happy children and kids looking right into the camera have been statistically shown to do better than children who are looking off screen or looking away. Infographics also perform well, and as I mentioned, this is a way to include words in a statistic without deducting from your character limit. If you like infographics, Safe Kids Worldwide has a lot on their website which you can use and cut and paste. But again, this is just a way to get more information out over that character limit. Event photos, Twitter really started as a way to publicize events and do quick things. So if you're at a conference, you can live tweet from the event, meaning that you tweet photos and quotes and other things like that. These photos shouldn't be resized because they're done right on the spot. But posting these photos will really give your organization visibility and show the great work you're doing. And diversity is important in photos. Again, Facebook and Twitter are worldwide organizations, and even if you're based in a certain country, you may have followers from all over the world. So just be sure to include some diversity in pictures if you're buying stock imagery. I want to show you quickly Tweetdeck, which is a free tool that you can use to make Twitter easier. Tweetdeck is something that you can just log into using your Twitter account. Again, it's free, and it looks kind of like this. You can set up these columns however you want, and it just helps you manage Twitter a little easier. So say you wanted to write a tweet here. Oops. Let's say you wanted to if we wanted to do a quick tweet like that, you can add images here, and it just like on Twitter, it has the character limit, but you can tweet through Tweetdeck, and this is how you would schedule a tweet. So unlike Facebook, you cannot schedule a tweet directly through Twitter, but through Tweetdeck, you can schedule a tweet for any time in the future. So if we wanted this tweet to go out tomorrow, we could click on the day and the time and schedule it for tomorrow. If we wanted to add an image, let's say, if we want to add an image, you can see it takes the character limit down. You can still schedule it. So this is a great tool to make your lives easier for time management. You can see in our column here, we have all of the tweets that we've scheduled so far, and you can edit or delete them here. So for us, we start out on Monday at the beginning of the week and figure out all of the things that we want to tweet about that week, and we schedule them here. So we don't have to be worrying about Twitter throughout the whole week. We've already got it done. You can also add columns for other things that you want to do. So if you want to follow a certain hashtag, like say you wanted to follow road safety, you could do that here. You could add your partner organizations. So if you want to see what Safe Kids is doing, or the UN, or anything like that, your government organizations, adding them here is just a little easier than trying to follow the news feed. Because people tweet so frequently, if we stay here for more than a minute or so, this will change, and the amount of tweets that come out based on the amount of people we're following. In that time that we've just been talking, there were 20 new tweets. So it's almost impossible for us to see what our partners are doing. We might miss something important. 20 new tweets again. So by creating a tab here, we can follow all of our partners and easily retweet, like, or comment on it. And you can do that all through this app. Just to show you kind of what we're doing, we've got our accounts to see what we've done. We also have our CEO who we follow so that we can retweet her things for her. And you can do that all over here. So this adds a column to schedule. Let's say we wanted to search. You could do other things here. You could add mentions, and you could add users here. So if you want to add a column, let's say I want to add a column for the UN. Here, let's say we want to do this one. That would then be added to our columns. So I recommend Tweetdeck because it's just a way to make your life easier and more manageable. Because of the speed that Twitter goes at, it's hard to keep track. But by taking a few minutes to set up your account here, you can not only schedule the tweets and add images easily, but you can figure out who is important for you to follow and watch them here. I almost exclusively look at Tweetdeck and barely actually use Twitter, again, just because of the speed at which this changes. And that's what we have today to talk about Twitter training. I hope that you found this useful. My email and phone number, which is a US number, are in the corner of the slide. But again, I want to thank you guys for having me, and any questions you can direct to my email address.
Julie, thank you very much. I think this is very, very useful for a lot of us. Please remember to evaluate and provide feedback to our webinars so we can make sure that the Alliance Empowerment Program brings you relevant and useful information, and also you may have some questions. You can also put them on the feedback form. Thank you very much for listening today, and have a safe day. Bye.